There is a kind of anxiety that does not feel like panic in the body. It feels like panic in the mind. You are dealing with a stressful situation. Something is already happening that you cannot fully control, and then you make a mistake, or you realize you made one. It costs you something: money, time, stability, trust, dignity, peace. And after that, your mind turns into a courtroom. It replays the moment again and again. It cross-examines every decision. It argues the case for why this proves something horrible about you and about your future. Then it turns into a disaster projector. It starts predicting the worst possible scenario, then the worst possible interpretation of that scenario, then the worst possible identity conclusion about what it means about you as a person. This is the mental side of anxiety. And if you have ever been stuck in it, you know it can feel like you are losing your sanity, even when you are still functioning on the outside. So in this video, we are going to talk about how to stay mentally steady when your mind starts doing this. Not by pretending you are fine, not by forcing positivity, but by learning how to recognize rumination and catastrophizing in real time, and how to intervene in the process so your mind does not drag you into a dark tunnel. First, let's define what is happening, because naming it correctly is part of the solution. Rumination is repetitive thinking that feels urgent but does not produce new information or useful action. It feels like problem solving, but it is actually mental chewing. You circle the same thought, you replay the same scene, you reread the same message, you imagine the same conversation, you ask the same question in 10 different forms. Why did I do that? How could I be so stupid? What if this ruins everything? What if they hate me? What if I cannot recover? Rumination is not just thinking. It is thinking that traps you. Catastrophizing is a specific form of thinking where your mind jumps from a real problem to the most extreme outcome, then treats it like a probable outcome. It turns a mistake into a collapse, a setback into a permanent identity, a hard conversation into a life-ending threat. And here's the key point. Both rumination and catastrophizing are the brain's attempt to regain control. Your mind hates uncertainty. It hates unfinished outcomes. It hates open loops. So it tries to close the loop by thinking harder. But thinking harder is not the same as thinking better. A mind in fear will produce volume, not clarity. So step one is learning to catch the moment your mind shifts from useful thinking to fear thinking. Here is a simple test you can use. Ask yourself, is this thought leading to a next step, or is it leading to a loop? If it leads to a next step, it is problem solving. If it leads to a loop, it is rumination. Problem solving has an endpoint. Rumination does not. Problem solving produces a plan. Rumination produces exhaustion. Now, let's talk about the most common trap people fall into after a costly mistake. They confuse punishment with responsibility. They think, if I keep thinking about this, I am being responsible. If I keep replaying it, I will prevent it from happening again. If I make myself feel awful, it proves I care. But self-punishment is not the same as accountability. Accountability says, I did something, I regret it, what do I do next? Punishment says, I did something, I deserve to suffer. Punishment keeps you stuck. Accountability moves you forward. So here is one of the most important reframes you can use. I can take this seriously without tormenting myself. You might need to repeat that many times before your brain accepts it. Now let's get into catastrophizing, because this is what makes anxiety feel so dark. Catastrophizing is not just imagining the worst-case scenario. Everyone imagines worst case sometimes. Catastrophizing is when your mind treats the worst case as the most real case, and it usually follows a pattern. You can learn to spot it. Step 1, the trigger. Something goes wrong. Step 2, the leap. This will spiral. Step 3, the collapse. Everything will fall apart. Step 4, the identity verdict. I ruin everything. I cannot handle life. I'm not safe. So what do you do with that? You do not argue with the details of the scenario at first, because the details can multiply forever. Instead, you challenge the process. You say, this is my brain doing worst-case forecasting. This is not prophecy. This is pattern. Then you move into a tool called probability and range. Catastrophizing tends to think in certainties. It speaks in absolutes. This will destroy me. There is no way out. I will never recover. So you answer with range language. There are multiple possible outcomes here. The worst outcome is one outcome, not the only outcome. The likely outcome is often less extreme than my fear is saying. I do not know the ending yet. This matters because anxiety is allergic to I do not know yet, but mentally healthy thinking includes I do not know yet. Now we go to step 3, which is reality testing. Reality testing is not denial. It is checking what is real versus what is imagined. Try these questions. What are the facts I know right now? What am I assuming? What am I predicting? What part of this is mind reading? What part of this is fortune telling? Because catastrophizing often includes both. Mind reading is, they think I'm horrible. Fortune telling is, this will end badly. Both feel convincing. Neither is a fact. Now, once you identify you are in a loop, you need an intervention, not a debate. An intervention. Here is one of the simplest and most effective. Set a boundary with the thought. Say, I'm not solving this by thinking about it right now. That sentence alone can change your relationship to your mind, because it reminds you that you get to choose what your mind does with your attention. Then you redirect to a structured container. If this situation is real and it matters, give it an appointment. At 2 p.m., I will spend 20 minutes doing actual problem solving. During that time, I will write down the options, pick one step, and then stop. If you never give your brain a planned time to address the issue, it will try to address it all day. If you give it a time, you send a signal of control. I'm not avoiding, I'm scheduling. Now let's talk about how to reroute thinking in the moment. When rumination hits, it usually hits with a specific thought that feels like a hook. If you can find the hook, you can unhook. Common hooks sound like this. What if I made the wrong choice? I cannot believe I did that. I will never forgive myself. This means something terrible is coming. When you catch the hook, do this. Label it. That is a rumination hook. That is catastrophizing. That is shame talking. That is my mind trying to get certainty. Then you use a replacement question, because the brain hates a vacuum. If you simply say stop, it will rebound. So you replace the question. Instead of, what if everything goes wrong? Ask, what is the next wise step, even if I still feel anxious? Instead of, how could I do this? Ask, what can I learn from this without beating myself up? Instead of, what does this mean about me? Ask, what does this situation require from me now? Replacement questions are not about feeling better instantly. They are about thinking better. And thinking better is what brings relief over time. Now here is a deeper point. Rumination often hides an emotion underneath it. You keep thinking because you are trying not to feel. Not always consciously, but often. The emotion might be shame, or grief, or fear, or embarrassment, or the feeling of being trapped. So sometimes the most helpful intervention is to name the emotion directly, without elaborating the story. This is shame. This is fear. This is regret. This is uncertainty. When you name the emotion, you reduce the need for the mind to build a 1,000-word narrative around it. Now let's address the situation where you truly did mess up and you truly do have consequences coming. This is where people get confused because they think, if I stop catastrophizing, I am not taking it seriously. No. Clear thinking is how you take it seriously. Catastrophizing is what makes you less effective. So the goal becomes this: separate what is controllable from what is not. There are only 3 categories: things I can do today, things I can do later, things I cannot control at all. Write that down if you have to, but keep it simple. If you can do something today, choose the smallest concrete step that moves it forward. If you cannot do something today, schedule the next time you will address it. If you cannot control it, your work is acceptance, not analysis. And acceptance does not mean you like it. It means you stop trying to solve the unsolvable with your thoughts. Now I want to give you a script to use with yourself when you feel the spiral starting. Here it is. My mind is trying to protect me by predicting the worst. I do not have to follow it. I can face the real problem without adding imagined disasters. I will do one useful step, then I will rest my mind. That is sanity. That is mental steadiness. And finally, I want to say something about identity, because anxiety after mistakes becomes identity-based fast. It becomes, this mistake proves I am unsafe. This mistake proves I cannot be trusted. This mistake proves I am doomed. That is not truth. That is shame using fear language. A healthier identity sentence is this: I am a person who made a mistake, and I am a person who can respond to it. You are not your worst moment. You are not your worst decision. You are not the most panicked version of your mind. You are the one who can notice the spiral and choose a different path. So if you are in a rough season and your mind keeps reaching into the darkest corners, I want you to remember this. Catastrophic thoughts are not instructions. Rumination is not responsibility. Shame is not wisdom. You can be honest about what went wrong and still protect your mind from self-destruction. One last practical step. If you notice you are ruminating every day, set a daily boundary. A single scheduled worry session, 10 to 20 minutes. During that time, you only do two things. List the facts, list the next steps. If you start looping, you bring it back to facts and steps. Then when your mind tries to ruminate later, you say, I already handled this today. I will return to it at the scheduled time. Over time, your brain learns that it does not need to hijack you. It can trust your structure. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe because it helps more people find calm, grounded support like this. And if you feel comfortable, leave a comment with the thought pattern your mind goes to when it is scared, or one replacement question that helps you come back to reality.